Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, or welcome back. Welcome for the first time if it's your first time. I am Haley Z and I am a licensed therapist. I also usually make videos that are about indie animation, soon to be indie video games and things of that nature. But it really is, over here I'm all about mental health, so I always find a way to weave it in. So today's topic is a little different, and this is kind of falling into the genre of more everyday topics, and I'm going to tell y'all a personal thing that I did that is still pretty unusual for people my age. As the title implies, I am your elderly millennial grandmother. I say that because of the fandoms I'm in, I really do feel like I'm the oldest. But yeah, I'm a millennial. I am semi-digital native. Like, I grew up definitely for the longest time, probably since I was 5 or 6, with computers. And so, technology was always a huge part of my life. And then of course I, at about 13, 14, started to be part of the social media generation. So I grew up with social media as something normal too. But I decided about 2 weeks ago to completely get off social media. To be clear, because I'm clearly making this video on YouTube, which is a form of social media. When I say social media, I specifically mean things like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever. Like the things that you typically think of in terms of connecting with other folks and engaging in a lot of back and forth with them. So yes, I still have YouTube. Obviously, I'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, YouTube I know is still technically considered social media, and I have it. But those other guys are completely eliminated from my life. Now, quickly as well, I do want to say that I haven't had TikTok in about a year and a half. Yeah, is that right? Yeah, like a year and a half or so. I also haven't had Snapchat in about the same amount of time, and I wasn't really like a power user on that by the time I got off of it, but for what it's worth, eliminated that. And I'm trying to think, yeah, Twitter, I really haven't used regularly in like the better part of a decade. I would say maybe the last time I had a super active Twitter was in like 2016, and we don't talk about those times because they're absolute unadulterated cringe. But so I don't have a Twitter. It was really just Facebook and Instagram that I had up until very, very recently that I completely got rid of. And y'all, when I say completely got rid of, I mean like I deleted those bitches. I didn't deactivate. I deleted that shit. I'm done with it. I am done. So why did I do this? Well, I'm echoing what I'm sure a lot of other people have already said on here, but the first thing was just the scrolling. The scrolling, no matter, even when I wasn't even thinking about it, even when I was just like literally wanting to do something else without thinking, I would pick up my phone and look at Instagram and refresh Facebook. And Instagram was way bigger of a problem, I think, for me, because honestly, Facebook, as you guys would probably agree, is not really something that us millennials, Gen Z, and younger are really like all about, but it was still something that I wasted time on. But yeah, just tons and tons of scrolling, tons of just mindlessly getting lost in random posts and things like people I didn't even know and shit that didn't even matter. So I'm sure we can all relate to that, but yeah, that was obviously a big problem. Another big problem is feeling really performative for others. So even though I am 34, like I'm kind of coming into my own and becoming a lot more secure about myself as a person, there was still a part of me that felt like, oh, people are expecting to know what's going on in my life. People want to see what I'm doing. If I'm doing something fun, I have to post it. If I'm doing something cool, I have to post it. And one of the biggest problems for me actually is that since I'm a cosplayer and I used to do a lot more cosplay, I felt like I had to just post every cosplay I made. And even though I was never really part of the community and therefore didn't really get like a lot of people who followed me for cosplay, I still felt like, oh my God, I need to put this out there and I need it to have traction and I need it to take off in some way. And I got really bummed out because my stuff never really did. I think that from my understanding, when you're a cosplayer, dude, you gotta like hustle constantly, and you got to be doing the cosplays that are like the most relevant and all that stuff. I mean, someone else can jump in if you want to say that. Yeah, essentially, I just felt like I had to perform, and not in a way that was fun for me, but in a way where I felt like I had to get likes and clicks and other bull crap that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of life. Another thing, too much negativity, too much random drama and bull crap. I would be scrolling, and even though most of the people in my like immediate circle are not exactly like unhinged and dramatic and stuff, there would just be like maybe friends of friends, or there would be like a creator that I don't know that I follow, and there would be something negative, and I'm all about calling out things that need to be called out and stuff. Trust me, I for sure am. But there was just some stuff where I was like, yeah, guys, like this just seems like it should have stayed in the drafts, or it should have stayed in the private text. In a similar vein, although its own category, I would say distressing news. I do try, and I think it's very important for all of us to stay apprised of what is happening in the world at large. And I think that when we can take action, when we can write to Congress, when we can donate and what have you, I think it's very important for us to stay apprised of all that so we can take steps as needed to ameliorate the world's problems. However, when I'm on Instagram and I see a bunch of extremely incendiary bullshit that is questionable at best, or very misquoted statements from other people or what have you, it's just distressing to me, even if the underlying content is important. And I think that already the TV does such a good job at sensationalizing stuff. Even newspapers to a degree can still sensationalize things, but Instagram is just this perfect storm of like not only highly sensationalizing stuff so that people look and people click and people like and people share and whatever, but also complete bullshit in some cases. And I'm really, people in my personal life know me, like I'm really not a conspiracy theorist. I'm actually very, very critical of conspiracy and constantly thinking like the world's against you and all that. I really, really don't like that mentality. But I do feel like with Instagram, it's simple. They want you to click. What you're clicking on may be true, it may not be true, but I don't think that's conspiratorial or controversial to say that, yeah, like Instagram at the end of the day is privileging pieces of content that attract attention. It's all about attention and what gets the most attention, even if it's just fucking brain rot, or it's bullshit, or it's extremely distressing to the point where like no one needs to see this. And that's another thing too, is that like I'm personally someone who is very, very upset by displays of extreme violence. And frankly, you guys, I really don't know that we need to be sharing videos of extreme violence that's going on in the world. We know there's extreme violence going on, and I'm personally not someone who is wanting to see that. So yeah, lots of that. I prefer to get my news in a much more measured way, and in a way that is not clearly trying to vie for my attention above all else. So moving back into like kind of the personal sphere, comparisons and FOMO. Oh, freaking hell, dude. I don't care how old I get. I would log on to Instagram and I see photos of like old friends getting together. Where was my invite? And I'm not saying that I have to be invited to everything by any means, but it was more like, yeah, this was a situation in which I think most reasonable people would agree that maybe it would have been nice to invite me. Or just a situation in which, yeah, it wasn't like that. It wasn't a situation where I should have logically been invited, but it was more like, oh, that person's doing something cool that I maybe wish I could do and I can't do right now for whatever reason. And you get a lot of that. And people, I want to make it very clear too, like I do not need to be involved in everything. And I do not need to do everything that I see. It's not about that. I'm sure people who kind of feel me on this can agree that it's just more like the accumulation of it all. The constantly seeing it. You're constantly seeing vacations. You're constantly seeing people's highlights of their life. And we all know that social media is very often more about the highlights. Like, yes, people such as myself have definitely taken to social media to share really, really difficult things in life. But most people don't trend towards that. Most people trend towards showing stuff that is just freaking fabulous and makes them look awesome. And you know what? I want to say this too. I feel a tremendous amount of joy seeing my friends, family, and people in general experiencing joy. But I'm a human too. And so sometimes when I see certain things, especially if I'm not having a good day or a good week, I am sometimes overwhelmed because I feel like I'm just in this echo chamber of just positivity. Or then over here, it's like extremely freaking negative. And I just don't think that there's quite enough like just normalcy on the internet anymore, because again, it's all about attention. Whereas I think like, you guys, if you look back to like, I don't know, Instagram, I think got started in like 2010, 2011, I want to say. Don't quote me on that, but it was roughly around that time. People used to post just the silliest things on Instagram. Like I would seriously like 12 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever. I could take a photo of like this cup and put it on Instagram and that would be completely normal. It wouldn't be like, why are you posting that? It'd be like enjoying a morning coffee. And that was what mofos put on Instagram back then. And quite honestly, looking back at that, I kind of miss that. I miss people just posting really silly stuff instead of like perfectly curated feed over here, someone getting beheaded over there. Like, I don't know. Bring me the boring shit, please. Like, I love that. Which brings me to the next piece of it that is so important to talk about, which is too many fucking ads. Everything is an ad. And honestly, that was a huge, like, this is a change from the last few years that has really driven me off these platforms. It's just ad after ad after ad, and you can't really avoid them. It's really, really hard to avoid them. You have to really go out of your way. At least last I checked on Instagram, you can have that like following tab where you just are able to look at people that you follow. But very often I feel like you're not just primed to go do that. And so what do? You log in, you see a bunch of shit that you don't even follow. You see a bunch of products. And granted, some of those products, it's like, damn, you know me. But at the same time, we don't need to be inundated with consumerism. We don't need to be inundated with shit that we're going to accumulate only to give away or throw away in a matter of weeks or months. Or stuff that at worst is just harmful or breaks in 2 seconds, which is what a lot of that Temu bullcrap on there is. We don't need this stuff. We really, really don't. And so, yeah, the ads and stuff are really out of control, really annoying. Some of them are not good products. A lot of them are not necessary products. And I'm not trying to demonize before anyone comes in and is like, well, I bought my favorite, like, vibrator on Instagram or something. Sorry, I had to, like, my brain is just clearly, like, not in a kid-friendly zone right now. But yeah, you know, if you bought a great product on Instagram or TikTok shop or whatever, great, super great. That's awesome for you. Love that for you. I'm not talking about the exceptions. I'm talking about what most of us experience when we log into one of these platforms. So I think I've listed some really good reasons so far as to why I quit social media. The wasting of the time, the being exposed to a lot of bull crap or harmful material, the feeling jealous or insecure naturally, but when I'm inundated with too much of people's highlight reels, the ads, the consumerism, etc. I feel like I've touched on all of that. And this isn't so much a reason why I deleted it, but this is more of an aside to let you know where some of my logic was coming from. As I mentioned at the top of the video, I'm a therapist. That is my primary job. I also have a secondary job as an accountant where I work with private practice therapists to basically like translate information, financial information for them. And I'm also getting into voice acting. And the latter one you can argue a little differently, we'll see. But at least for my first 2 jobs I mentioned, I don't need social media at all for my job. People can also say, oh yeah, well, a lot of therapists have social media. Why aren't you on it? I have literally never known anybody, this is on God, never known anybody in my professional circle who has gotten a client from Instagram or TikTok. And someone can strike me down if they actually have and they told me and they want to take advantage of my shitty memory and say, yes, I did tell you that, Haley. Fine. Come in the comments, tell me. But as far as I'm aware, no. That is not something that is that I witness happening a lot. And it's certainly not something that ever happened to me when I had Instagram or TikTok. Like, and you guys, like a few years ago, I was going ham on Instagram when I was in the anti-MLM space, because that's something I'm really passionate about. And I was putting my name out there as like, yeah, I want to help people recover from MLMs. I consider them a subset of cult, and I think they're terrible, and I want to help people. I connected with so many folks and honestly made some great connections that I still have to this day. Not a single one of them was a client. So that was kind of something that helped me make my decision that, you know what, I really don't need this for my job. I really don't need this for any of the work I'm going to do, including, in my opinion, voice acting. But obviously, I want to say this because I know that not everybody is that way. Not everybody can get off social media. Some people, including some of my friends who are in other careers, they have to have Facebook or Instagram for marketing purposes, or they're in some type of media job and it's important for them. So pour one out for those people. Another thing I wanted to point out, again, I mentioned obviously that clearly I have YouTube still, and I actually take YouTube pretty seriously. And when I say seriously though, guys, I mean like in the sense that I am working hard to learn, I'm working hard to create, and I'm working hard to hopefully in the near future connect. This is not something I'm doing for money. This is not something that I'm on here to try to earn my income from. I already have 2 going on 3 forms of income that I am engaging in. So it's not really that. This is definitely more of a creative passion for me. This is something that I want to look back and be proud of. And this is a way that, again, hopefully I can eventually connect with other people on interests that we share, because I don't have a lot of people in my real, I guess, IRL life who are interested in things like indie animation or indie gaming or things like that. So I keep YouTube because to me, the pros vastly outweigh the cons. And I think that YouTube is also one of those things where like, I don't have it on my phone anymore because I was scrolling a little bit, but I don't have it on my phone. I am very intentional with the time I spend on YouTube and the type of content, and I'm getting better about the content piece of it, but I'm becoming very, very intentional about what I intake, and it's just easier for me. It's hard to explain. It's just easier for me. Having it not on the phone is really, really important, because I think that the shorts literally attack you when you have YouTube on your phone and you're just like, stop. Like, even if some of this is funny, like it's just, some of the shorts are so ass, bro. Like they're just like, it's just such unnecessary brain rot. And so that's kind of how I treat YouTube, is like something that is really a creative pursuit for me. It's not really a social media, other than, again, connecting with people who have my interests, but it's not something I use to keep in touch with family or friends of friends or distant things or old coworkers and all that. It's just kind of like, it's my space. It's my creative, wonderful space. Another thing I didn't mention that I figure would be important to say too is LinkedIn, because LinkedIn sometimes gets brought up in the social media conversation, and I don't really consider it a social media in the same vein at all as any of those other guys that I mentioned, because LinkedIn really is about having a professional profile. And again, I can't think of a single person who uses LinkedIn to like earnestly keep in touch with people on a personal level. It's about getting jobs. It's about befriending people in the same industry sometimes. It's about maybe sometimes reading the articles a little bit, but for the most part, it's just about the professional aspect of life. And so I do have a LinkedIn under my real name, which I'm not giving away yet. Sorry, people. Personal, artistic and professional lives, y'all, I gotta keep that shit separate. Like, I'm not trying to be judged out here on my therapy work for what I do in my personal and artistic life and vice versa. I'm really just trying to keep it separate. But anyways, I've had it since like 2010, 2011. Like, it's the longest social media I've had. And I just keep it because I'm like, look, I don't know, I've connected with so many people over the years, and if people need to reach out to me for like a reference or something, or just want to ask me a question about therapy, that's great, and vice versa. If I need some support in that regard, sick, dude, I can message them. But yeah, so I just, for good full disclosure, I wanted to let y'all know I do have a LinkedIn. Obviously it's not public, but I do have it. So I'll own up to that. But again, I see this as a very different category of online social media. Others may be watching this video and asking, if I don't have social media, if I'm not really using YouTube to connect to my friends and family, and same thing with LinkedIn, I'm only really using that for like occasional work-related stuff and to have an online resume, so to speak, what do I do instead? Well, I do have a website and it is linked in my YouTube profile, so you can go check it out if you want. It's pretty bare bones. It just has some of my paintings, some of my cosplays. It has a page for voice acting that is completely empty because I do not have anything other than what's on my YouTube channel to really like put out there as voice acting, but one day for sure, y'all. So that has been a way for me to show what I can create without relying or being tempted by clicks, likes, comments, views, whatever the hell. Because even though obviously there are some metrics, some algorithmic metrics on Squarespace, it's really, you know, I haven't really enabled anything else. Like I haven't enabled likes, for example, you know, it's like I didn't create my own little social media site. It's more just like, here it is. Here it is. Take a look at it if you want. Don't if you don't want to. You can email me if you want, but it's just kind of there. But it's a way for me to still catalog all the creative things that I do, and so that I can look back at things and be proud. Or if someone does ask, hey, what do you create? What do you do? I have something to show them. Because of course, people in my IRL life will ask that, and I want to give them something to look at. And so boom, there's my website. It's right there. It's cool. It's chill. It doesn't come with all the extra baggage that like an Instagram account or a TikTok account would, and I love it. So that's what I do instead. So another thing that people have asked me in real life, and possibly you if you're watching this, is, okay, Haley, but like, you think you're slick because you're 2 weeks in, dude, but like, you're not gonna last. I know you're gonna go back to LinkedIn, or but you're not gonna last. I know you're gonna go back to Instagram or one of those things because it's so hard. You know, you need it. You need it to keep in touch with people. And like, honestly, you know, you make a good point there, but I think what I've come to the conclusion of is a couple things. First of all, the people that are really meant to be in my life are going to make the effort. They're going to adjust to the change. They're going to realize that, hey, in order to inform Haley of stuff I've got going on in my life, guess what? I have to email her, or I have to call her, or I have to text her, or I have to WhatsApp her. You know what? Like, if that's too hard for people, bye. Bye. Like, I've realized in life that I just don't have the room for people who are not willing to make those small adjustments, because I am someone who does a lot for people. I have had people who are not on social media who I've had to adjust in prior times to texting or calling instead. It didn't kill me. And it's not going to kill other people if they really care about me or their other loved ones who don't have social media anymore. And the second thing is that if there are apps or groups or activities or whatever that incentivize people to have social media in order to be a part of them, well, it's not really the thing for me. And there are things that I like to do that are more challenging without having social media. For example, when I was writing up a little outline to this, the example that I thought of was this group called Buy Nothing. Buy Nothing is a group where you join it on Facebook for your respective region, and you can give stuff away or ask for stuff or pick stuff up, and there's no money exchange. Everything is just given away for free, or you're picking something up and you're getting it for free. Or sometimes they have little like not raffles, but like, you know, you put your name in and then they choose at random and then the person gives it to you. And I've gotten some great stuff that way. I've also given away like untold amounts of possessions on there in the past when I had Facebook. And you know what? One of the reasons that I held on to Facebook so long was because of that group, because I really don't like accumulating extra crap that I don't need and then thinking about throwing it away. And I always love knowing that something that I don't need anymore is going to a good home. And so at first I was like, oh shit, man, what am I going to do without Buy Nothing? And then I realized that I have to leverage other things, but I can still create a similar experience. For example, I have a bunch of neighbors and they're all really cool and I'm in touch with some of them. And so sometimes when I have to give away something, I will just text them. Simple enough. And if they don't need it, they may know someone else who needs it. I also have found a couple of really amazing thrift stores in the area who are not necessarily big box places like Goodwill, where I can donate and I know that I'm helping out a company or a nonprofit that could really use those materials. So I just keep, I have to adjust certain things in my life with that, but I'm still able to do the thing that I want to do. And another example, I suppose, could be this whole voice acting venture that I have. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on Instagram. I can't just tweet people and get into like conversations that way. But what I can do is I can maybe like talk to people on YouTube. If I ever am so inclined again, I may download Discord. Like, there are so many other things to do. I can go to cons. And I understand that some of the stuff that we may have to adjust is like, maybe like, for example, going to a con costs more money than being on social media. I get that. But I think if something's really important to you, you make it work even if you don't have some of the tools. And if social media is a needed tool to do the thing, like truly needed, at least for me, then that just means that it's not something that I truly care about then, if that's really what it's about, right? So those are my two realizations. I want to make it really clear before I go that I really don't judge you if you've watched this video and you're like, okay, too long, didn't watch, gonna keep social media. Or even if you watch the whole thing and you're like, yeah, like I'm not convinced, I'm gonna keep my social media. I think that's fine. I think that everyone has the right to use social media in the way that they want, as long as they're not harming other people or being like a complete menace to society. So you do you, for sure. Like, I don't want to judge anybody about that stuff. But what I will say is that I hope that what I've talked about today gives y'all something to think about, or at least makes you, I don't know, think about how to mindfully use social media. Because again, for example, I'm not getting off of YouTube anytime soon. I have no reason to. I'm loving my time on here. I feel like there are so many wonderful shows and like communities that have come out of YouTube, and I intend to stay here for as long as it feels comfy and fun for me. I have to admit, there are some days that I spend a lot of time on like Has-Been Hotel side of YouTube or something, or the FNAF side of YouTube, and I'm like commenting and engaging. But I hope that we all can think about how to be more mindfully involved in whatever social media communities we're involved in, because there's a whole big world out there, and social media is just not the whole world. It's just not. It's not everything. It's a tool that we can use to see more of the world, but if we get too involved in it, then we end up disconnecting from reality and disconnecting from things that can be really meaningful. So, for what it's worth, that's what I think. Again, thank you for joining me for yet another yapping sesh. If you're brand new here, please know that this is not really the bulk of my content at the moment. I do usually tend to loop in other media as I talk about mental health topics, but I don't know, man. We're waiting on a new Hell of a Boss episode. We're waiting on a new Amazing Digital Circus episode. And I'm thinking also legitimately of making a video about FNAF and like how I got into the fandom as like a legitimate 33-year-old, like old as hell, like the grandma of the whole community. So I have a lot of media related mental health analyses in the works, but if this was helpful, please let me know. I would love to talk in the comments. I'm a really big yapper in the comments too. So please feel free to show up, engage, stay as long as you like, make requests for videos. I always love that. I usually am pretty good about heeding those and making something that can appeal to other people. So yep, that's me. All right, y'all. So please have a wonderful day. Eat some good food. I'm so fucking hungry. I need to go eat. So I'm going to go do that. And I hope y'all have a good day. Bye.